The Fantastic Four might be the most disappointing blockbuster of the year. This film had all the potential, all the opportunity to be good. It had the beautiful color palette, it had the 50s, 60s vibe, they had good actors and actresses in place, and then the writing let the story completely down. Mr. Fantastic is supposed to be the smartest person on the planet, but he's written like an absolute dummy, and the press conference moment he has in the middle of the movie is inexcusable. Sue Storm, they give her almost no work to do. She has no character development. We don't know anything about how these two got together or why they're together, and their on-screen chemistry is fine, but there's no real reason for them to be together, and there's no real backstory as to why they're a couple.
This was hyped as Marvel's big, shiny comeback and the glorious rebirth of the Fantastic Four. The reboot, the reimagining, the moment Marvel's first family was gonna storm back and reclaim the throne. Disney swore this would be the giant leap forward. But instead, it's looking like a free fall off a cliff. The box office is limping, critics are throwing half-hearted claps, fans are split right down the middle. And somehow, in the middle of this chaos, Pedro Pascal is turning the whole thing into a political soapbox. Suddenly, if you're not vibing with his Mr. Fantastic, it's not because of the acting, the script, or the awkward character work. No, apparently it's because you're politically wrong. Welcome to Disney's modern era, where flops aren't just flops, they're moral battlegrounds. And trust me, the drama is just getting started. Now, let's talk numbers, because numbers don't sugarcoat the truth, even when Disney tries to bury them. Fantastic. 4. First Steps didn't just open soft. It opened sweaty palms in the accounting office soft. We're talking studio bean counters popping antacids soft. This was supposed to be the cornerstone of Marvel's massive comeback, but right now it's a flashing neon sign that the comeback wall already has cracks. And if you listen closely, you can hear the panic echoing through the PR halls. Kevin Feige is out there giving interviews with that perfectly rehearsed optimism, smiling through the storm like it's all part of the plan. Meanwhile, Bob Iger is reportedly fuming behind closed doors. And the internal blame game. Oh, it's on. Disney doesn't just take a flop and move on. They hunt for someone to blame. And lately, that villain isn't the studio, the marketing, or the writing. Nope, it's the fans themselves. Some might shrug and say, relax, it's just one movie. But nah, this isn't happening in a bubble. Marvel's been taking hit after hit. The Marvels crashed and burned Ant-Man and the Wasp. Quantumania couldn't even break even. Eternals barely made a ripple. Thor, Love and Thunder split the fan base, and She-Hulk. Well, that one had people arguing more than cheering. The so-called sure thing Marvel formula? Yeah, it's starting to feel like a roll of the dice. And into this shaky mess steps Pedro Pascal, the fresh face of Reed Richards. Now, you'd think he'd be out here saying, thanks for giving me a shot. I hope you love the movie. Here's why you should check it out. You know, the usual hype that actually gets people to buy tickets. But nope. Instead, he's out here dropping speeches about sexism, politics, and how if you don't vibe with the movie, you're apparently a bad person. Pedro's no rookie. He knows the drill. Actors are supposed to sell the movie, not turn the press tour into a TED Talk about your personal beliefs. But every interview's becoming a full-on political sermon. He proudly calls himself a male feminist. Fine, no problem there. But then he pushes it further, saying the reason people don't like his female Silver Surfer is because they're sexists or misogynists tied to politics. And that's where I gotta stop him, and because Pedro, my guy, the female Silver Surfer isn't the issue here. The real problem? Marvel dropped her into the story with zero buildup, zero character arc, and zero explanation beyond a lazy, we thought it'd be better this way. That's not politics, that's bad writing. But when your whole image as an actor is more about activism than actual entertainment, suddenly every bad review gets twisted into proof of some massive political plot. And here's where it gets wild. Pedro says Kevin Feige personally warned him to brace for outlandish behavior from a certain side of the country. If that's true, then Disney wasn't even focused on making the movie strong enough to win over the doubters. They were already prepping for a cultural war before cameras even stopped rolling. Imagine burning hundreds of millions on a superhero flick, and instead of perfecting the story, the characters, the spectacle, you're drawing up your defense plan for angry tweets. But the biggest eyebrow raiser, Pedro straight up claims Fantastic Four is one of Marvel's most successful films ever. Then, in the very same breath, he admits the numbers look bad because Trump supporters are boycotting it. Which is it, Pedro? Are you smashing records or sinking because of politics? You can't play both the triumphant record breaker and the victim at the same time. That's the kind of mixed message you'd expect from a rushed PR email, not a media-trained veteran. But Pedro isn't even trying to smooth it over. He's betting most folks won't catch the double talk. Bad gamble. Fans notice, they always notice. And here's what Marvel and Disney in general just can't seem to wrap their heads around. The audience isn't dumb. We can tell when a movie's being used to push a political message instead of delivering pure entertainment. We know when we're being lectured instead of being swept up in the story, and people are tired of it. That's exactly why Disney fatigue is so real right now. Folks are sick of feeling like every movie ticket is some sort of moral pledge instead of just, a fun night out. And honestly, this isn't even a new habit for Disney. At this point, it's practically part of their playbook. We've seen the same drama unfold before. Remember the Rachel Zegler Snow White disaster? On paper, it should have been the safest win in the company's history. A beloved fairy tale, a built-in audience, and the nostalgic pull of one of the most iconic animated films ever made. But instead of selling it as a magical, faithful, big-budget remake, Rachel spent her press tour throwing shade at the original. She called it outdated, implied the prince was creepy, and bragged that her Snow White would be a modern, independent woman who didn't need saving. That might fly if you're rebooting for an edgy art house crowd. But this is Snow White. Families wanted a fairy tale, not a TED Talk. And when fans pushed back saying, hey, maybe we just wanted the story we grew up with, Disney's defenders didn't pause to listen. They sprinted to Twitter to label critics as part of a toxic fandom. Didn't like the new Snow White? Well then, clearly you hate women. Obviously you're threatened by progress, because that's the only possible reason, right? Same script, different day. Or take the Marvels. Remember that box office disaster? Budget, $270 million. Worldwide haul, around $210 million. And that's before marketing even gets factored in. That's not just a flop, that's a crater you could see from space. But instead of taking a hard look in the mirror and saying, hey, maybe the story didn't connect, or maybe our marketing missed the mark, Brie Larson and the cast spent more time talking about representation milestones than the actual plot. And once again, critics weren't dismissed because they found genuine story problems. Nope, they were written off as trolls. Same excuse, different movie. But this isn't just a couple of slip-ups, this is a full-blown pattern. Disney's new flop formula goes like this. Make a movie, pack it with creative choices that alienate a chunk of the fan base. Sometimes for story reasons, sometimes just to make a point, then send the cast on the press tour to frame those choices as bold and necessary. When the box office tanks, blame toxic fans, trolls, bigots, or political enemies. Then rinse, repeat, like the last flop never happened, and now Fantastic Four is next on the chopping block. And Disney's got the perfect frontman for the PR battle, Pedro Pascal. He's smooth, articulate, media savvy, and most importantly for Disney, he's willing to scorch part of the fan base if it means racking up political brownie points. Just like Mark Hamill, who turned Star Wars press tours into a personal political soapbox. Just like Mark Ruffalo, who can turn any Marvel premiere into a rally. Disney's mistake here isn't just hiring Pedro. It's handing him the mic and letting him run the press tour like it's a campaign trail. Because once your lead actor frames the movie as a moral test, you've already lost the audience. Nobody likes being told that not enjoying a film somehow makes them a bad person. And once that message is out in the wild, it spreads faster than the actual plot summary. You can't walk it back, you can't clarify it, you can't fix it in post. And here's the part that should have Marvel sweating. Pedro is already locked in for Avengers. Doomsday, filming's done. His character's reportedly a major player, which means if Disney doesn't pull him back, that press tour is gonna be another politically charged circus. Instead of hyping up one of the biggest crossover events since Endgame, Marvel will be back in the trenches, battling their own fans. At some point, Disney's gotta choose a lane. Are they in the business of making movies or making statements? Because right now, they're trying to do both, and failing at both. The box office doesn't lie, and the truth is brutal. Audiences aren't walking away because they've suddenly stopped loving superheroes. They're walking away because the magic is gone. And the craziest part, Disney still acts shocked every time it happens. Like this is some brand new twist in the story. When in reality, fans have been warning them for years. We've been saying it at conventions, on YouTube, on social media. Focus on the story first. People will show up for a great plot, solid characters, and unforgettable moments. But if you treat the movie like a lecture, folks will find something else to do on Friday night. It's not rocket science. Look at the early Marvel hits. Iron Man, Guardians of the Galaxy, Winter Soldier. These movies connected because they were exciting, emotional, and fun. You didn't have to pass some ideological test to enjoy them. You just had to buy popcorn and buckle in for the ride. Now, with Fantastic Four, Disney's got a chance to fix it, but instead they've doubled down. The marketing is leaning into the message, the interviews are all about meaning, and the actual film, barely in the conversation. When the focus is everything around the movie instead of what's in the movie, that's when you've lost sight of why people fell in love with these characters in the first place. And here's the real danger. Keep this up, and even the die-hard fans will stop defending you. Not out of spite, but out of exhaustion. When the magic turns into a lecture, the theater lights start to feel less like a welcome glow, and more like a spotlight on everything that went wrong. And once those die-hard fans check out, it's game over. Casual moviegoers follow their lead. Merch sales slow down. Theme park tie-ins lose steam. Suddenly, the billion-dollar machine that once felt unstoppable is running on fumes. And Disney? They'll scramble to figure out what happened, even though the warning signs were glowing in neon the whole time. Look around, the competition's already circling. Other studios smell blood in the water. They're scooping up the superhero fans Disney's letting slip away. They're offering pure entertainment. No lectures, no us versus them marketing, just cool characters doing epic things. That's what audiences want, and it's what Marvel used to deliver better than anyone. But here's the wild thing, Disney still could turn it around. They've got the budget, the talent, and the IP empire to pull it off. What they don't have right now is the discipline to shut out the noise and just tell a great story. And until they figure that out, every movie release will feel like a risky bet instead of an event you can't miss. If Fantastic Four tanks, it won't just be another Marvel flop, it'll be a signal flare that the golden era is truly over. And when that happens, it's not the critics or the so-called toxic fans who will be to blame. It'll be the people at the top who forgot that audiences came for heroes, not homework. And when history looks back at this era of Marvel, it won't remember the excuses. It'll remember the choices. The hype trains that derailed before leaving the station. The billion-dollar brands that tripped over their own message before the audience even saw the first scene. The stars who spent more time in interviews picking fights than selling tickets. The tragedy is that it didn't have to be this way. Fans wanted to love these movies. They were ready to show up, buy the merch, and keep the legacy alive. But Disney kept confusing loyalty with blind obedience, expecting people to cheer no matter what they were given. And once that trust is broken, it's almost impossible to get back. Now all eyes are on Fantastic Four. If it bombs, the domino effect will be brutal. Faith in the next Avengers movie will nosedive. Tie-in projects will feel like afterthoughts. And even the Marvel logo won't be enough to guarantee a hit. And if Pedro Pascal keeps turning every mic into a pulpit, The conversation will keep being about politics instead of the plot. Disney has a choice right here, right now. Go back to making movies that unite fans or keep playing culture war roulette until there's nothing left to gamble. Because sooner or later, audiences will move on. And when they do, they won't be coming back for one last goodbye. The sense of wonder, gone. The joy, gone. And every single time Disney turns a flop into a lecture instead of actually listening to the audience, they shove more fans right out the door. Fantastic Four should have been a slam dunk. Marvel's first family, the legends who kicked off an entire comic universe. Decades of history, characters people grew up with, the perfect shot to erase the memory of those awkward Fox-era flops and finally deliver the definitive version fans have been dreaming of. Instead, it's been turned into yet another battlefield in Disney's never-ending culture war. And fans aren't tuning out because they've stopped caring. They're tuning out because they're exhausted from the fight. If Marvel wants to survive this next phase, the fix isn't complicated. Stop preaching. Start entertaining. Give us plots worth the ticket price. Give us characters worth rooting for. And maybe, just maybe, remind Pedro Pascal that his main gig is to sell the movie, not the message. Right now, Fantastic Four. First Steps isn't a bold leap forward. It's a warning shot across the bow. And if Disney ignores it, that next shot could sink the whole ship for good. If you felt this breakdown hit the truth, don't just sit there. Smash that like button. Share this with a friend who's been side-eyeing Marvel lately, and subscribe so you don't miss the next big takedown. And hey, stick around, because the next video popping up on your screen is packed with even more jaw-dropping celebrity drama you won't believe. See you on the next one.